For this video, I'm going to talk about a couple of concepts. First one I'm going to talk about is what I use for editing. Everything that I do, I pull into LightRoom. Now, you'll notice down the side that I have all these different categories to help me keep track of what I've got and where I've got it. It's a good practice to get into, that you not only do this, but when it comes to the image itself, add keywords where possible. And you can do that when you do an import. As you're importing your media, you can go right there and put in information about that photo, which you can then make part of the image itself. Now, if you'll see the image up here, it says DSC F1071, and the edit shows that it has been edited outside of LightRoom. But this is from an old camera that I had that did digital, one of my first digital cameras. It was a DSLR, not mirrorless. And you can see the basically two similar images here, one edited and one not edited. So I'll go through here and I will use this to edit my photographs. You can see that the camera was a Fujifilm camera, it was a FinePix S1500. The other really good thing about having LightRoom pull your images in is you get to keep all of this information. Now, some other software does it as well, but that's why I use LightRoom, one of the reasons. If you have GPS coordinates, and there's ways of getting that with some of the newer cameras, it'll store those GPS coordinates as well, which makes it easier to search for photographs. That said, while I've got everything here in this library, I have other libraries. These LR cats are all different libraries, and I move stuff or create a library for what I'm going to be working on. Now you can go through and you can take your pictures and export them to a catalog. It's kind of a lengthy process to go do that. I recommend if you've got a new project that you're working on, create the catalog. If for some reason you want to get rid of that catalog and move the photos after the fact, then do it. Otherwise, just go ahead and keep those photographs. The other thing I want to talk about today is, let me kill this off here. Let's take a look at develop in LightRoom. Now, lens corrections are always good to have on. Each manufacturer creates a profile for the lens. Fuji doesn't have one for this, but you'll see that there's Canon on the list, and it'll figure out, if it can, what the profile is. Otherwise, you'll have to select the profile. Let's get this all the way here. And let's take a look at what some of the presets could do. Now, you saw with the original image. Now, I like to shoot RAW currently. This was a JPEG file, and this was the camera trying its best to figure out what the image should look like. But if we look at some of the presets and what they do, how they punch up the colors, make everything a little bit cleaner. You can also go black and white if you want to. But by putting these presets in, you can quickly get your photos looking the way you like. Now, this is Lightroom Classic that I've got open here. There's also a web base that goes to your phone as well, or your tablet. Now, the advantage of using something like that is if you've got these presets that you use, you can put them on the web-based one and edit in the field. Now, I don't use the web, the non-classic version, I call it the web-based version, for much. You'll notice you can, on these export and import, but you can also put these out as something that goes and gets synced in your cloud. Okay, that is a great thing to use for the other Lightroom, but I don't use it for that. I do have it on my tablet. My tablet syncs to my camera. So what I can do with my Canon R5 is I can go get that information or get that image, pull it up on my tablet, and quickly throw a preset against it. Now, presets are things that you can also find one that you like, but you want to tweak a little bit and save it, or start from scratch and create your own preset. Those can then get pushed forward into this cloud base. You see these user presets that I've got here. And what that would allow is you can pull that image over, pop it up in the Lightroom, and let the client see what the image is partially going to look like. Right? It's not going to be a full, this is what it is type of setup, for the simple fact that you're going to go and do your own editing to it. You're probably just not going to leave it with a preset. But as you saw with the image here, when you shoot in RAW, it has less of the color and contrast and things that I'm going to add to the photograph. By throwing a preset on it, the client gets a chance to see approximately what it's going to look like once it's been edited. So they're not seeing the raw image. They're not seeing that it looks a little washed out. They're seeing their lipstick looking the way it should look, and they're getting a chance to see their clothing with the detail that it's going to have once I get done. If you look at these two images here, you can see how much more detail there is in both the stonework and this little ornament right here. You look at how much cleaner that looks because some more contrast was thrown against it, as well as the color changes, etc. That's what I use Lightroom for. In addition, you have two interesting ways to work with plugins. As you can see down here, I have a bunch of, they're called plugins. Basically, you're kicking yourself out to another program, and I recommend that you use a copy of the image when you go out to these, just in case. But also, there's a second place for it to go that you can kick it out. So you can go through there and do it very easily through there. And you can see all your plugins that you have set up in here. And turn them on and off. But you can kick it over to that image from here as well in the plugin extras. It gives a little different way to edit the photograph, and sometimes if you're having problems getting it to look the way you want, just kick it over that way and see if that makes a difference in the way it goes through. So from a technical standpoint, that's what I got for you today. You can go in here. You can easily kick it over to Photoshop and do things from there. You can easily have other programs and have the image then pop up in these other programs and edit it there. Sometimes some of the programs like the Luminar Neo, it's easier to remove things sometimes using that than it is other programs, although Lightroom and Photoshop are getting much better and easier to do some of these things, making some of these programs obsolete. If you're not familiar with them, we'll go down real quick. The Luminar ones are basic general purpose photo editing software. All three of them have an AI basis to them, and you can do things like fix eyes and put themes on it, kind of their version of the presets that we have in Lightroom. The next one, they're perfectly clear. That is fairly portrait specific. I've been able to use it for other things, but it's great for working on portraits. It has a set of built-in presets, and you can add to that one as well. But it has features that are broken down by the part of the body that you're working on. For example, you can enhance the lips, you can enhance the eyes, you can add a smoothing to just the face, you can add smoothing to the entire body. So there's several things you can do with that, and it's got a bunch of presets to get you started. Again, you're making a copy of the image before it goes over, so you can dispose of it if you don't like it, or you can then take that and use it as a starting point and edit from there. Just like the presets in the Luminar series and the presets in Lightroom, you can edit what that preset has done. So you can go back and make changes to it as well. Topaz has a family of products. The denoise one, Gigapixel, and Sharpen all kind of get bundled together in the Photo AI a little bit. So the denoise will go through and try to clean up noisy images. The Sharpen one will try to take care of motion blur and those types of issues. Gigapixel allows you to upscale your image. So if you're using generative AI of some kind and you're having problems because your card can't handle an upscale, you can always take that image and throw it into something like Gigapixel and upscale the image that way. So using a different process and taking your images, and you can do those in batch. That's another thing. If you're not kicking these images over, but you're going and grabbing the image and pulling it through, a lot of these will allow you to do batch processing, where you can just grab a folder or grab a series of images and have it go through and apply to those images. Again, because it's using an AI, it's not going to apply the exact same thing every single time, because it'll find the eye, for example, and apply the eye thing wherever the eye is. So it's not just applying it to some spot on the first picture and then kicking that across. Again, some of these things also now exist in Lightroom with the masking that they have in place now. So that's an alternative that you're only having to pay for Lightroom and not having to pay for these other tools. In addition, if you are a photographer, I believe it's still the case that you can get Lightroom and Photoshop, and I believe it gives you both versions of Lightroom for just $10 a month, which is an incredible value. I have the entire Adobe suite, and I have stock, so I don't pay $10 a month, but I believe the other one's still $10 a month, and you get Photoshop and Lightroom, and you can edit your images there. Plus, that includes being able to run Lightroom on your tablet so that you can do editing on your tablet to at least do some basic stuff to show off to your client what it's going to look like. So that's what I got for you this week. If you look around, you'll see videos on most of these little add-ins if you want to go find out a little bit more about those. And I will